Good afternoon. I'm El-Guri from KAIST in Korea. Today I'm going to be talking to you about a new jamming attack against Wi-Fi networks. The paper title is Runaway If You Can, Persistent Jamming Attack Against Channel Hopping Wi-Fi Devices in Dense Networks. This presentation includes introduction, related work, proposed attack, evaluation, defense, and conclusion. In this work, we first showed that existing reactive jamming is not effective in dense network. And we investigate the security limitations on unprotected physical layer header to be tracked by attackers. And we showed that the proposed persistent jamming attack is feasible in dense networks. And finally, we recommend the security remedies against persistent jamming attack. There are two major streams in evolving Wi-Fi technologies. The first stream is local area network in 2.4 and 5 GHz ISM band, such as IEEE 802.11ac, very high throughput wireless LANs, and IEEE 802.11ax, high efficiency wireless LANs, which is in process of standardization now. And second stream is wide area network in sub-1 GHz ISM band or TV white space, such as IEEE 802.11af and AH, targeted for the smart grid infrastructure and sensor networks and medical healthcare devices. These Wi-Fi technologies are evolving to improve data rate and service coverage. And as many Wi-Fi devices are widely deployed, denser network conditions are expected. So we can say that wider bandwidth and longer coverage and denser networks are trends of evolving Wi-Fi networks. There are 4 types of conventional jamming attack in related works: constant, random, deceptive, and reactive jammer. As names imply, the constant random deceptive jammer sends continuous random decodable jamming signal in a proactive manner respectively. And a reactive jammer sends jamming signal only if the channel is busy. So if there is no current channel in the, if there is no traffic in the current channel, the reactive jammer switches to another busy channel and attack again. So far, the reactive jammer has been known as smart jammer due to its channel awareness. But in this work, we will show that the reactive jamming is not effective in dense network. And there are 3 types of channel hopping techniques: proactive and reactive and passive channel hopping. Proactive channel hopping is very fast, but it is not used for wireless LAN devices due to its high complexity and inefficiency in terms of throughput and quality of service. And reactive channel hopping is slow, but it is typically used for wireless LAN devices. Dynamic frequency selection mechanism is defined in 802.11h standard to avoid radar signals or interferences from other devices. And the channel frequency can be switched by firmware or manually when network connection is not good or disconnected. So we can say that wireless LAN devices adopt slow channel hopping techniques now. In existing reactive jamming attack scenarios of related works, there are only 3 nodes: attacker and 2 communicating nodes. If a target node switches to another channel due to the jamming signal, the reactive jammer can switch to the target node's channel and successfully attack again. However, in real world, wireless spectrum is highly congested. So If the target node switches to another channel due to the jamming signal, the reactive jammer cannot know which channel is being used by the target nodes. Our motivation is based on these observations. The reactive jammer is not effective in dense network because it cannot identify channel hopping devices in dense network. It just sends jamming signal to any busy channel. So we propose persistent jamming attack. It can track a specific target node or a group of target nodes based on unprotected frame header, including ID or fingerprints. For a persistent jammer, the wireless spectrum can be observed as the colored spectrum. So if the target node switches to another channel due to the jamming signal, the persistent jammer can know which channel is being used by the target nodes. The target is green color, so persistent jammer can switches the target node channel and attack again. This is IEEE 802.11ac frame structure. There is no protection mechanism for frame header, while the data payload is protected by security protocol and encryption mechanism. So if the data frame is intercepted by attacker, the encryption mechanism makes the data payload unusable. However, frame header that carries important device information can be used by attackers to track the target nodes. The frame header includes ID and fingerprints. The partial association ID was included in IEEE 802.11ac standard for the purpose of power saving. But the legacy devices such as IEEE 802.11abgn do not have that kinds of ID information in the physical layer header. So that's why we consider both the ID and fingerprints detection. Fingerprints can be extracted from the preamble at the beginning of the frame header, such as the timing offset or signal-to-noise ratio. This is our developed IEEE 802.11ac prototype system, which satisfies the performance and functionalities for IEEE 802.11abgn-ac standard requirements. There are this prototype system includes RF and ADDAC and 4 FPGA for digital baseband and ARM processor for Mac software. And there are 4 nodes, an attacker and a neighbor node and access point and target node. This is our laboratory picture. It is a typical indoor wireless channel. There are 4 nodes, target device and an access point, and attacker and neighbor node as a vector signal generator. Now I will give you an example of test scenario. There are 3 channels. A target node communicates with access point in channel A, and neighbor nodes generate random traffic in channel B, and channel C is idle state. And if an attacker sends jamming signal to channel A to interfere the communication, the target nodes and access point switches to idle channel C. If the attacker was a reactive jammer, the reactive jammer may switches to channel B with high probability because channel B is busy by the neighbor node. On the other hand, if the attacker was the persistent jammer, the persistent jammer may switches to the channel C with high probability because persistent jammer can track the target node's device ID or fingerprints. These experimental results show the standard deviation of the measured fingerprints in wired condition. We used signal-to-noise ratio and timing offset as a measured fingerprints because of its high accuracy and reusability of existing circuits of wireless LAN devices. As a result, the accuracy were within the 1.6 dB SNR and 1 ppm timing offset for the full dynamic range of the wireless LAN devices. And these experimental results shows the detection success ratio for ID and fingerprints in wireless conditions. In laboratory blueprints, the red one is the attacker's location, and blue ones are the target node's location. As a result, the ID detection success ratio was as lowest as signal field error performance, which is larger than the 90% for all locations. And the fingerprint detection success ratio was larger than the 80% success ratio for all locations. We think that this accuracy was pretty good for detection. And this is the throughput measurement at target nodes for the different jamming attack. Left upper figure shows the reactive jamming attack case, and left lower figure shows the persistent jamming attack case. And this is attack start point, and if the target node switches to another channel, the reactive jammer could not track the target node. However, on the other hand, if the target node switches to another channel, the persistent jammer could track the target nodes persistently. And right figure shows the jamming efficacy with the different transmission power and speed. The condition index 1 is for the reactive jammer case with largest transmission power and fastest response time. However, even if the reactive jammer has the largest transmission power and fastest response time, the jamming efficiency was not improved much. On the other hand, the persistent jammer case has significantly improved the jamming efficacy with larger transmission time, larger transmission power, and faster response time. And we conducted large-scale emulation for multi-node test environment. And this emulation model has the jamming model and dynamic spectrum congestion model and Wi-Fi model and channel model. Jamming model provides random and reactive and persistent jamming behavior, and dynamic spectrum congestion model generate the random wireless LAN packets in time and frequency domain. And Wi-Fi model has cycle true and bit true model, which is the same as the hardware prototype. And we follow IEEE channel model for the RF and analog impairments and channel. And this shows the degraded throughput for the different jamming attack versus number of other legitimate nodes from the other BSS. Random jammer has the worst performance, which is close to the without jammer case. And interestingly, the reactive jammer was effective only if there is no other legitimate nodes except for the target nodes. And persistent jammer has the best jamming efficiency regardless of the number of other legitimate nodes. And with the largest transmission power and fastest response time, the persistent jammer shut down the communication link of the target nodes. So I will present the 4 security defenses against persistent jamming attack. In order to protect ID information, we propose including the non-cryptographic device authentication and dynamic ID allocation in the next generation wireless LAN standard. And we are participating in standardization process with Korean company now. So if we have a chance to talk about this issue, we have a plan to discuss about that in the conference. And for the ID protection, we recommend the non-cryptographic device authentication. For example, encode ID using the channel reciprocity property between 2 communicating nodes. 2 communicating nodes have the same channel response in the wireless channel, but the attacker has different channel response. So we think that we can transmit with encoded ID information when transmission. And we can update ID periodically using the time synchronization function. And currently, the wireless LAN system uses the static ID allocation. And in order to protect fingerprints, we recommend to apply the digital pre-distortion or the friendly jamming techniques. The wireless LAN standard defines impairment tolerance level at a receiver, such as the timing offset or carrier frequency offset. So pre-distort signals during the transmission by random offsets for every packet, which can be compensated at receiver. At the same time, this prevents from overhearing the fingerprints by the attackers. And we can utilize the friendly jamming to prevent from the overhearing the fingerprints by attackers. And the wireless LAN has the high frequency and wider bandwidth, so we think that attacker cannot extract from the fingerprints in the OFDM signals. So in this work, we present the persistent jamming attack, and we think this is first work on the persistent jamming. And we demonstrate the feasibility in real-world prototype system and the large-scale emulation. And we present 4 security remedies against persistent jamming attack. Okay. Do you have any question or comments?
Thanks. So I have a question. In your experiments, it looked like you had kind of the attacker node co-located in the same room with the legitimate nodes. So I'm wondering, did you measure the effective range on the efficacy of your attack? Did you, move the attacker further and further away and try to measure how effective the attack was in that sense?
Not yet, actually, but the range was the 30 meter or 50 meter in the indoor channel in our laboratory. And we have a plan to experiment with the more various channel conditions.
Okay. I have one more question. In one of your defenses, you were talking about this, using this idea of pre-distortion to, which could be compensated for at the legitimate receiving node. Can you explain why exactly an attacker couldn't perform the same compensation?
The pre-distorted offsets are blinded to the attackers because in every packet there should be the random offsets for the transmission. So, but at the legitimate nodes, they can compensate the offsets. But for the attacker, they don't know how much random offset was included.
Okay, I see. Thanks.
Can you explain how important it is to have anti-jamming for 802.11? Because I know the protocol was designed for civilian purposes. Why does it matter if it is jammed? You know, I can go and legally take away the jammer or, you know, use other means.
Okay, that's a good question. I think this issue can be applied for almost all wireless LAN systems because they don't have any protection mechanism for the frame header. You know, I mean the physical header. They don't have any protection mechanism. And for your question, my answer is, as I told at the beginning of my presentation, wireless LAN may apply for the medical healthcare devices or the smart grid infrastructure on sensor network. That is very related to our life or security. And so we think that if you have the implantable medical devices in your body using the Wi-Fi technology, using the IEEE 802.11ah, if a persistent jamming attack applied, you may lose your life. So we think that this issue is very critical in near future.
Was the protocol designed originally with anti-jamming in mind? Does the protocol have any anti-jamming features originally?
There is no standard for the anti-jamming protocol in wireless LAN standard.
Right. Thank you.
Hi. So you said your persistent jammer, it can keep track of the wireless devices using some fingerprint. But maybe I missed it. What does that fingerprint consist of? Like, what kind of ID is it?
Pardon?
Your persistent jammer, it can keep track of wireless devices and the channel they are on using fingerprints.
Yeah, fingerprints.
Yeah, but what does that fingerprint consist of?
Is your question is that where we get the fingerprints information in our system?
No, I mean, like, is it like an ID of the wireless devices in the fingerprint? I guess we can take this offline.
Yeah, maybe we can take this offline. Any more questions?
Maybe we talk about that issue in offline.
Okay, that ends the session, so let's thank the speaker.